What is up, everybody? Hopefully, you are doing well. Welcome to the latest episode in our series on how to make a living as a content creator and streamer. And today's video was inspired by Lou, who asked a question the other day during the live stream, which was, how do I plan my content? Now, I have actually talked about this a couple years back. There is a member-only video for our channel members on YouTube where I talked about sort of my strategy for how I plan content. That's about 2 years ago. Most of that is still relevant, although I have sort of adjusted a little bit more since then. And I have briefly mentioned things a few times in the past, but I haven't done an in-depth version of that discussion for this series. So let's dive in. So if you go back to what I talked about at the beginning of this series, having a huge library on YouTube is going to be beneficial to establishing a back catalog of revenue. The more videos you have in your library on YouTube, the more passive income you will make. It's not entirely passive, but it is partially passive in the sense that every video you put up can earn money. When you start getting, like I have as of this recording, like 10,000 videos, most of those videos will bring in pennies per day. Some bring in multiple pennies per day. Some videos bring in dollars per day. Other videos bring in tens of dollars per day. It just depends on how old is the video, how relevant is the video. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But generally speaking, I have a formula that works for me. How do I plan for that? How did I figure out that formula? So, ChatGPT is going to be a big tool for you, but also just going out there and R&Ding things. What I did in the very early beginning of things was I went to ChatGPT probably 3 years ago now, and I said, give me ideas. I just said ideas for a YouTube series. And it gave me, I think I told it, like, give me 50 ideas for a YouTube series. And it gave me 50 different ideas. And I went, okay, I could probably throw 20 of those away because they're not going to be relevant to me, but I like these 10. Now I'm going to take those 10 because those are the 10 that I know that I can do. But let's further dive into those over on YouTube and see which ones are going to be the most beneficial. So then I took those 10 ideas and I put those into the YouTube search engine, and I looked for other content creators who had done videos around those topics, and I went through and looked at the ones that were the most popular. And then I went, okay, those are working for these other content creators. I should do videos around that same theme. However, I have to make my videos stand out from theirs. So even though it can be of the same theme, it needs to be different and unique. Part of this is going to be also be getting good at thumbnails, because it's not just about planning your content and your content titles and your content strategy. It's also planning your thumbnails and everything else. That's just something that you get good at over time. There's also the how do I plan my live streams. This is all going to be, I don't know how long this video will be. I'm in the middle of finishing my breakfast, so I have some Apple here, which is literally just like oatmeal stuff that Chris made. Wet my throat. So the big thing, and this goes back to some of the episodes I talked about at the beginning of the series, planning out your content in advance. So every time you go live, you need to have, know that you're going to be able to cut 3, 4, 5 sections out of that video. Well, how do you know what you're going to be cutting? As I mentioned in those early videos in this series, thinking about things that you're already an expert on. So what I recommended in that series was, in that early video in this series, was find games that you're knowledgeable about, even if they're older games, and start with that as a base. Now, what I did and worked for me was focusing on beginner's guides, because I know that there are always new people coming into games. I don't worry about the advanced stuff or the fastest to do things, all that stuff. I focus on beginner's guides, how-tos, tips and tricks, quick guides, those types of things, and the new player experience. Those are things that work well for me. And generally speaking, those videos will always do very well when I am looking at a live service game that has many, many, many players coming into it. Things like Dune Awakening, Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, Star Wars: The Old Republic, Lord of the Rings Online, EverQuest 2, World of Warcraft. These games that continually have new players coming into them. That was something that worked very well for me. Now, with single player games, it's going to be a little bit different because it depends on what type of single player game you're talking about. If it's a very linear game like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, you'll notice that I didn't do any guides for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle because there's not really a lot of guide type content in there because you're not building classes. You're playing a single character who just plays through the game. You could probably do some puzzle guides, but I kind of find like those types of games aren't worth my time because those are adventure games. Those are linear games that you just play through. You're playing a specific character. So those I just do the playthroughs. And then I'll always do my early thoughts video, an initial review, and a final review. Any type of game review is going to generally work pretty well, whatever your perspective and skew on things is. Now, the game guides work really well for things that have, like RPGs, which have class based systems. So, any game where you're going to have a character creator where you're choosing races and classes, that's a great place to start. Go look at any of my like Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale 1, Icewind Dale 2, all those old videos, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, Solasta. What did I do? I started off with here's a character creation guide for new players. Here is a race guide for new players. Here is a class guide for new players. And then you can get more granular and say, here's how to create a paladin for, whatever. Here's how to create this type of paladin. Here's how to create this type of sorcerer. When you have a game that has 15, 20 classes in it, you can literally create 15 to 20 class guides for that game on how to create that character. You are going to get some pushback from some whack jobs on YouTube who will be things, you're just reading off the screen. This is absolutely pointless. I could have done this by logging into the game. Yes, you could have. The point is not to worry about that. What you're doing is you're fulfilling a need on YouTube, which is you're giving YouTube content. YouTube wants you to give it content because YouTube makes money off of content, and you too could make money off of content if you plan it out accordingly. So anytime I look at an RPG, which is mostly what I play on my channel, I am looking at I know for a fact I'll be able to get a let's just say I'm starting a brand new game for the first time. I'm immediately going to be able to get a character creation guide, a race guide, a class guide, an early thoughts video, and then probably a couple of clips for social media within the first 3 to 5 hours of the game. From then I can start looking at, okay, like we just did this for Borderlands 4. Not only do I have like the beginning class guide, I then go into my build guide for the character that I'm playing. I have an early level guide, I have a mid level guide, and then I'll do a final guide when I finish the game and I have like a max level character. Along the way, anytime you see tips and things, what I will do is I will start to make a list as I'm going through the game and I'm discovering things. I'll be like, when we were playing recently, Ghost of Yotei as an example, as I was playing that game and as I was streaming, I was clipping out those videos, those sections of videos, like how to use the treasure maps in the game. That's a video. Boom, clip that out, put it on YouTube. How to use the spyglass, clip that out, put it out as a video. How to do this thing, clip that out, put it on YouTube. When you're done, and you have a list of 10 or 15 or 20 different things that you've clipped out and made for that game, you now have a combination of different things that you can put together in a list for an ultimate beginner's guide. And those videos I've done on my channel have always done very well for me, which have, and it doesn't have to be called Ultimate Beginner. You can call it whatever you want. The point is creating this massive guide that's like 45 minutes to an hour long, which has, it's going to be a lot of work to put it together, but by that point, you've already done the legwork and you've got all this other stuff already clipped and cut. You don't have to use those same clips, but you at least have, a shooting target to go, I'm going to go to this list and create these 15, 20 things. So I always look for, like I said, early thoughts video, character creation, race creation, build guides, and any sort of tips and tricks and how to as we go along and play the game. Ultimately culminating in a ultimate beginner's guide. And then the other thing I will do is we will look at the Ultimate Beginner's Guide, and I'll have that into the sections, and I'll take all those sections out and cut those into individual videos, promote those out on YouTube, and each one of those points back to the Ultimate Beginner's Guide. So it's a huge network of linking back to other things. So, in terms of RPGs, I have a formula that works for me. That is a simplistic version of my formula. There's a lot more that goes into it because the titles change, because there's more competition every single time I play a game, and other people use variations on the Ultimate Beginner's Guide or the tips and tricks format, or you know, best tips for new players, best new tricks, guaranteed. No matter what game you're playing, someone else will be doing the exact same thing that you're doing, more than one person. So you just have to figure out how to make a unique title, and then have a matching thumbnail, and then go from there. Now, with playthroughs that are like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I don't really focus on that much. It's mostly just go in, play the game, do an early thoughts video, an initial review, and a final review when I'm done, and maybe some additional thoughts videos along the way. If I see something is having a lot of conversation around it, um, like Shattered Space, the DLC for Starfield, or Cyberpunk 2077, or things of that nature, Dragon Age Veilguard. If I see that there are conversations being had around the game, I will make my parody videos, which work very well for me, which are reverse rage bait, where I'm just making fun of the people who hate the game. And I take that and make it into a mockumentary, and I mock the rage, and I use that to create a positive spin. But I always start the video saying something along the lines of, as an example, when Shattered Space came out, our favorite content creator who likes to light a candle in for Todd Howard had said something like, "This is the worst." Either him or the guy who said this is insane. One of those guys had made a video that said this is the worst DLC that Bethesda has ever created. And so I made a video with the title that said, "This is the worst DLC in the history of games," or something like that. And I gave it an appropriate thumbnail. And I got into the video. The initial footage of that was me going, "Guys, Shattered Space is quite possibly the worst DLC that Bethesda has ever created." At least if you believe the haters on the internet. But for me, I loved it and I think it's great and I'm having a great time. We're going to talk about how much fun I'm having in this game right here in this video today. Welcome aboard. So you get them in the first 10 seconds. You've got their clicks, you've got their views, you've got their engagement. Then they go, "Oh shit, he's actually going to talk positive about this, you asshole." And then they're like, "I have to type a comment because I'm angry." And you're like, "I got you for more engagement," which makes my video go up in the algorithm and gives me ad clicks, and I win, noob. Um, so those are the things that work for me. Uh, in terms of planning my live streams, these days I do try to focus largely on quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. New games. I don't try to play everything. I do try to play, like, I focus on things that I know I'm going to enjoy. I will occasionally try things that are out of my wheelhouse. Um, as an example, the Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. That was out of my wheelhouse. Didn't like it. Moved on. Monster Hunter Wilds, took a risk. Didn't like it. Moved on. Um, occasionally, I tried Arc Raiders the other day. Didn't like the solo that much, but I did like the group play. It's outside of my wheelhouse. I don't really usually do extraction games, but occasionally it's good to try things that you've never done before if it's going to be if you have spare time and it's popular, um, and go from there. Now, in the early days of my channel, and this is what you're going to be focused on in the early days, is start off with the things that you know you can make lots of content around, which are going to be games that you're familiar with. If you are very knowledgeable about World of Warcraft or Fallout 4 or Lord of the Rings Online, whatever it is, doesn't matter if it's an old game, start with that. That's going to give you 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 months of content, because you can sit there and crank out a video. A minimum, you could do a video every single day, maybe more, hopefully more. But at the very least, you could do one video every single day. And if you can do one video every single day, by the end of 6 months, you're going to have hundreds of videos out on YouTube. Well, 100 plus, So that's a good starting point. Then, if your budget can allow it, you can start focusing on trying to play as many new games as you can. I know what I like, and I stick to that for the most part. But there are a lot of new games that come out every single month, and I just can't keep up. So what I do now is I focus on the games that I know I want to play. I probably, in the early days, I had to pay for everything. Now I would say I probably pay for about, man, I don't know. This year I feel like I've probably only paid for about half. Maybe I've paid for 60% of my own games because I get a lot of keys given to me now because I've worked my way up. I got a handful of keys last year. This year I have gotten keys out the wazoo, from indie to AAA. I've also done sponsored videos this year and sponsored streams this year for the first time, which is just a natural progression of the channel. I will be doing more of those next year, more than likely. So what I try to do now is I usually have my schedule planned out at least 3 months in advance, sometimes longer if I can. I generally have an idea of all the games that are coming out in a given year just by checking the lists and watching Gamescom and, you know, the PlayStation events and the Xbox events and everything else. Um, but there's going to be a lot of like shadow releases, early access things that drop that you might want to try out. And so what I try to do now is I try to have two, if not three, two or three new releases every single month that I'm going to play. And I do try to focus on, because I am focused on growth for my channel, I try to focus on games that are AAA games or indie darlings that are getting lots of um, interaction and noise on the internet, while also being games that I want to play. So sometimes there's going to be games that get lots of noise that I'm just like, Dying Light the Beast looked interesting and kind of fun, but at the same time I was already so busy with other games that month in September. I was like, I just don't have time to play that on top of everything else. Um, and like this month, as an example, we had Ghost of Yotei at the beginning of the month, then Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines 2 and Outer Worlds 2. Those are the three games that came out this month, which is October of 2025. That's enough new releases for me to try in a single given month. That gives me one game at the beginning of the month, one game in the middle of the month, one game at the end of the month. Each one of those games is going to take me a week to 10 days to get through. So that gives me, let's just say, I get 20 days of content out of that. There's 30 days in a month. So in between that, I do things like early access games or games that I've been given keys for. Or if I don't have anything else to play, I will play DLCs that have come out, or I will go back to um, what I meant to say was keys, like any keys I have, any DLCs that have come out. And if I don't have anything else to do, I will look at live service games like Dune Awakening, New World Eternum, World of Warcraft, Star Wars: The Republic, Lord of the Rings Online, um, Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76, these types of games, because those always have DLCs and they always have people playing, and it's always an easy way to go back in and play something, especially if I haven't played it in like a year or 2 years or 3 years, and I can play catch up and do like a new player experience in 2025. You'll notice that some games like Lord of the Rings Online, Star Wars: The Republic, as examples, I've played those games a lot over the years. I know them pretty intimately. I don't play them all the time anymore, but I do every single year. I do an update on those games and I create a new version of is the game worth it? And then I do another new version of should I play it? And then I do another version of what's the game like in 2025, 2026, 2020. Every year I go back and I do those because it's easy for me to jump in, check out the updates, play a couple of hours and be like, all right, I'm back in the groove of things. I know how to ride this bike. Let's do a quick update video for. I also know that anything related to playing solo in an online game is going to do well. So solo tip videos, solo guide videos, new player, those kind of things always work well. So anytime I don't have a new game going on and I don't have a DLC going on and I don't have like an early access key that I've been given to try out or I don't have a sponsored video to do, I will drop back to those old live service games and I will use that as filler content in between. This year is great because I actually don't have any major releases happening from November 15th. Not even that. Like Outer Worlds 2 is the last big release that I have for this year. I'll finish that up early November, like November 10th probably. I'll be done with that. And then I have Karn, which I think comes out on the 6th. So by the 15th of November, I'm going to be done with new releases for the year, unless something shadow drops. Like Bethesda could announce on the 23rd that they're going to shadow drop like the Fallout 3 remaster, and I'm going to have to scramble my schedule around and try to fit that in. But who knows? But because I knew that, and the next game I want to play is February 15th, which is High on Life 2, right? There's nothing from mid-November to mid-February. I have a 3-month gap. So I started looking at things that I wanted to play. And some things I know, like I hadn't played Cyberpunk 2077 in a while. That's a good replay. I get good traffic with that game. That's a pay the bills game because I know that I'm going to get a minimum amount of interest from that game, which is going to generate a minimum amount of income, which is what pays the bills. Then I looked at what else can I do, and I was like, well, I haven't played Fallout 76 in a while. Fallout Season 2 is airing in December. They're doing a lot of promotion for Fallout 76. Walter Goggins is in the new expansion. I should go play Fallout 76, capture the audience that's going to be watching the TV show, and take advantage of all the publicity that Microsoft and Bethesda are doing around the Fallout franchise. That's another way to plan your content. Is there a TV show coming out, or a film, or a book series, or comic book? The Expanse is another good example. There's a TV show that's getting a game from Owlcat that's going to be coming out next year. So at some point, we may do a rewatch of the Expanse show to review the show ahead of and leading up to the playing of that game. That's another way to get two birds with one stone. So I looked at Fallout 76 and said I should be able to get plenty of publicity because there's lots of eyes on that. It's a live service game. I could do lots of new guides, new player experience, all that stuff for that game. Then I hopped in the other day and I was like, I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online in a while. Let me check that out. I haven't played it in a few years. That's another filler game that I can do from November over. So now I've got Cyberpunk 2077 replay. I've got Fallout 76 deep dive. I've got Elder Scrolls Online deep dive that I can do for those 3 months, and anything else that I might stumble across in between there. So that gives me three major projects, even though there's not any major new releases happening. At least not games that I want to cover. I mean, and I don't have anything currently on the table for sponsored stuff during those months, but you never know what'll come out of the woodwork. And then I may do like a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 replay. There's options, right? But then we get into 2026, and I already know there are things like High on Life 2, we've got Crimson Desert, we've got Fable, we've got Grand Theft Auto 6, we've got Exodus, we've got The Expanse. A lot of those games are going to be towards, like starting. Usually the new releases start in February, and they just start coming. Usually there's some spring, some summer, but then everything usually every single year usually gets really busy about August. Like July or August is when everything ramps up. And usually July, August, September, October, November are super busy. December starts to slow down. And by January every single year, I know, and everyone knows who does this for a living, January, you don't make any money because the advertisers pay shit. And so you're not going to see much traffic. You're not going to see much revenue from any of your ads. So January is always a good month. There's usually not a bunch of new releases. So January is the month that I usually leave for me to play the games that I want to do replays of, or little projects that I might have missed along the way, or indie projects where I don't really care if it's not going to get a lot of traffic. It's just something I want to play, and that's the perfect time to do it because the videos aren't going to make shit anyway, even if you're playing a high profile project, because the ad revenue is going to suck during the month of January. So, like last year, I knew, so I was like, I'll go play the Mass Effect series. And so I started around Christmas time, and it was 6 weeks to go through all four of those games leading up to the end of January. And, we still made a chunk of change for January, but it was, you know, 60% less than the rest of the year because that's just how January works. So, yeah, generally speaking, that's sort of like an insight into how I plan my content and how you might want to plan your content. ChatGPT could be great for helping you come up with ideas. Then you take those ideas, put them into YouTube, figure out if any of those are things that you might want to expand upon, and then stick to the things you know you can do, games that you like. Try to focus on new games as often as possible. If you can't, at least try to focus on games that have a big um, following. So, like Babylonia is doing as an example, he's focusing on Bethesda games. There's a pretty big inherent community within Bethesda games because there's lots of them to choose from. So he's playing some Starfield, some Fallout, going through there and also slotting in some Borderlands 4 and some Enshrouded, like some Dune Awakening, like, but sticking mostly to like Bethesda games because he likes Bethesda games, and also looking at the creation stuff and the modding scene. So being able to focus on that. And like I know Gray has been doing like Final Fantasy 14, and that's his niche with some Dune Awakening and some New World stuff. So um, find the stuff that you enjoy doing. It's really easy to make content around the stuff that you enjoy, but then use these tools and these tips to help you create content around those games. And that's a good starting point. And from there, you can expand. So if you found this useful, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Check out the previous videos in this playlist, and I will see everybody in the next one.